Hi, this is Blaine. Welcome back to another episode of Energy Works. I'm doing a solo episode today on one of my favorite topics, food. In Chinese medicine, there is a whole subset of study in five-element theory called food energetics. And I'll just back up a little bit to say that Chinese medicine is foundationally created from observing nature and earth and seasons and animals and people and plants and how we all interact and how we thrive and are healthy and how we don't and have disease. So what better part of nature than food from where we get our nourishment? So food energetics, it's a study I love. I started studying it with teachers, really committing myself to learn more about it under the umbrella of five-element theory a couple of years ago. And I continue to buy more and more books and cookbooks and experiment with recipes and kind of creating my own recipes. We'll see where all of this takes me. But I want to talk about earth element and food today. But I'll start by sharing, I heard years and years ago that the average home cook has this small amount of recipes that they cook just over and over and over. And I remember the number being, to me, shockingly small. Just kind of a rotation of a handful of recipes that are just made over and over and over again. So I decided to do the research and see if this is true or not. And it turns out it is true. So in the UK, a recent study found that the average adult tends to cook the same 6 dishes on a rotating basis with a core cooking repertoire centered around convenience and habit. Convenience and habit. The US data says that the average person is 10 meals cooked on repeat. So 6 in the UK, 10 in the United States. That to me does not say seasonal cooking because this is year round, just making over and over the same dishes. And as many of you know, I don't eat meat. I quit eating meat over 40 years ago. And sometimes when I'm thinking about this, I wonder if it is the anchor of meat that make people do that because, one night is fish, one night is chicken, one night is pork, one night is beef, one night is fish, and so that's 4 things that people are maybe rotating their meals around, where if you don't eat any of that meat, it's kind of endless. You don't have these kind of anchor foods that you're building whole dishes around. There's just hundreds and hundreds of choices that you can work with. And so maybe some of you may be watching or listening thinking, yeah, that's really normal to how I am. I think maybe that might be one of the reasons why it's not for me. Or maybe it's just because I love food and to cook so much. So I want to talk about earth. Earth today, we have 5 elements. Earth is one of them. And Earth time is often cited as around the equinoxes and solstices. And we just had one a couple of weeks ago. So we're in Earth time right now. But Earth time is actually all periods of transition. When you have a transition in your life, a new relationship, a new job, maybe a health diagnosis for you or a health diagnosis for someone else. Maybe it's a move. There are so many things that kind of a transition knocks us off balance, knocks us off our center. And we feel that we are trying to find our footing. to get through a transition because things are changing. And that's what this earth element time is about, either with the actual planet Earth and the seasons and the transition times of the equinoxes and the solstices, or any time in your life. So many of you listening to this outside of what just happened in our year with the planet Earth turning in your life, you may find that you are in a transition. And that is when you, even if it is spring or summer or winter, when you want to reach for more of these earth foods to help you find your footing, to help you feel stable. I taught in the EM Yoga Stars yoga class membership. I taught a class just today that was earth element. And we talked about being capable. When things are changing around you, you're going through transitions, you're knocked off your center, having this sense that you are capable, you're capable of handling it, and you're not feeling ungrounded. And so that's balanced earth. You're in the middle of a transition, but you still feel quite capable that you can handle whatever is thrown your way. So earth foods are foods that are nourishing and create a sense of stability. So some examples are sweet foods. And by sweet, I mean Mother Nature made them sweet, not sweetened with refined sugar. So a sweet potato is a sweet food. So that would be an earth food. So sweet, not sugary sweet, made from planet Earth sweet foods, foods that are warm and nourishing, foods that are rich with deep flavor and were either grown low to the ground or have been cooked for a long time. Potatoes, carrots, sweet potatoes, like I said, squashes, legumes like lentils and chickpeas, whole grains like brown rice and oats, warming spices like cinnamon and ginger. Just yesterday, I have a friend, she's going through a transition. She's getting ready to move. And so I offered to bring a lunch over and come over to her house. And I made a grain salad. I used barley, but warm. I made a warm grain salad, and I had turmeric in it. And so it had all of these aspects of cooked. The barley I had to cook for an hour and a half, I think, before it was finished. So like these whole grains cooked, warm, nice warming seasoning in them. And we shared that for a lunch yesterday as I'm trying to support her with my food during her transition. Roasting, stewing, simmering, these are all ways to do this. So I want to offer how, when I'm thinking about what I like to cook and the ingredients I have in my house, how I decide what I'm going to do. So I like to make all kinds of different things all the time. I am a recipe cook sometimes, and I'm going to share with you how I find recipes, because I know that many people are recipe cooks, but I'm also often not a recipe cook, but I use recipes for guidelines quite a bit. So when I'm thinking about what I want to make for my partner and I for dinner, or what I want to make for my own lunch, or I'm going to the grocery store and the types of groceries that I want to buy, I think about what season it is in. I think about what I already have in my refrigerator, because I really try to use the ingredients I already have before going to the store to buy more. But sometimes I do still need to go to the store to get something to complement what I'm going to cook once I decide what I'm going to cook. And then maybe think about if I have some sort of theme in my head. Do I want to make a soup or a stew, or maybe something baked, or do I want to use my air fryer, or do I want to make more a sandwich or a salad or a pasta? What am I thinking I might want to make? And then I get to the Google search, And actually, for some of you who use AI tools, now instead of the Google search, I'll even use AI tools to help me brainstorm or send me to different recipe links around the internet to think about how I want to do this. And so we talked about lentils in the recipe, in the ingredient list that I suggested. So I did this just a couple of days ago. I make lentil soup quite a bit, and there's a million different ways that you can make lentil soup. And I try not to get in a rut of making lentil soup the same way all the time. And so I knew what vegetables that I had in my fridge. I knew that I had lentils, and I just started using search on the internet. And I'm vegan, so I always use the word vegan in there. Vegan lentil soup recipe with this vegetable, that vegetable, and this vegetable. Or if you use meat, or if you have a certain seasoning, and just put that in your search. I want to see all the recipes that have these ingredients. And then you'll start to look at different recipes and you'll think, oh, I've never thought of putting this in that before, or that sounds really good, or, oh, I can make this recipe. I just need to go to the store and buy one more thing. So I use Googling recipes all the time. I mean, weekly, many times a week, all the time when I'm thinking of what I want to cook. I am probably the opposite of one of these people who has the same 6 dishes or the same 10 dishes on repeat over and over. My partner thinks, wow, this is great. I would love it if you made this again, but I'll probably never have it again, because he knows that I very rarely make the exact same thing over and over, and I change it. But if you're someone who likes to do that, then you can create your own recipe files or tag things on your computer and actually come back to them and maybe evolve them over time. And so that's it for today. Earth season food transitions, and really an open invitation if you're one of those people who does make the same thing on repeat over and over. Use the internet, use some of these ingredients that I mentioned, maybe do a twist on something that you really like to bring grounding and stability into your life when you need it. And also it's nutritious. The more variety of different foods that you eat, the healthier that you are. And so you might even find that you have a little more fun in the kitchen. If you liked this episode, drop me a note. I may do one in the future on the winter foods. If that is something that is of interest to you, just let me know. Thanks for listening, and I will see you next time on Energy Works.